The medical bay on Station Cora 7 was one of the most advanced healing centers in the entire Galactic Union. It had machines that could regrow limbs. It had scanners that could detect illness before symptoms appeared. It had doctors from 17 different species, each trained for over 50 years in their craft. The station floated at the edge of the Valari home system, serving as a neutral ground for trade, diplomacy, and emergency care. Nothing that entered those gleaming white halls ever left without being healed. Until today. Dr. Thiessen pressed her four-fingered hands against her temples and let out a long, tired breath. Her silver skin reflected the harsh lights above as she stared at the containment room through the observation window. Inside, pressed into the furthest corner, was a small creature no bigger than a Terran cat. Its fur was a deep purple, matted with dirt and blood. 3 large eyes, all golden and wet with fear, stared at the door. Every time anyone approached, the creature let out a scream that rattled the very walls. The creature was a Valari cub. The Valari were proud members of the Galactic Union, known for their intelligence and their fierce protection of their young. This cub had been found drifting in an escape pod near the wreckage of a passenger ship. Pirates had attacked. The cub was the only survivor. Dr. Thiessen had seen trauma before. She had treated soldiers who had witnessed entire planets burn. She had held the hands of dying ambassadors. But this cub was different. It refused all contact. It refused food. It refused water. It screamed at every face that appeared in its vision, no matter how gentle or kind. 3 days had passed. The cub was dying. Behind her, the door slid open. Dr. Moreau, the station's chief xenobiologist, walked in with his datapad clutched tightly. He was a Corvan, tall and thin with pale blue skin and eyes that never seemed to blink. His voice was calm but carried an edge of frustration. "I have reviewed every protocol we have," he said. "I have consulted with specialists on 5 different worlds. There is nothing more we can do. The cub's stress hormones are so elevated that its body is beginning to shut down. If we sedate it, there is a high chance its heart will stop. If we do nothing, it will die within 20 hours. Dr. Thiessen did not turn around. She kept her eyes on the tiny ball of purple fur trembling in the corner. "There must be something," she whispered. "We cannot let a child die because it is too afraid to let us help." Dr. Moreau moved to stand beside her. Together, they watched the cub flinch at shadows. "Fear is a powerful thing," he said quietly. This cub watched its family die. It was alone in the dark for 3 days. To it, every adult is a threat. Every hand that reaches toward it is the hand that destroyed its world. The door opened again. This time, it was Nurse Vela, a small Draxian with 6 arms and a face covered in soft feathers. She was carrying a tray of medical supplies. "I have prepared another attempt," she said, her voice shaking. "Perhaps if I move slowly enough." She did not finish. The moment the cub saw her enter the room through the window, it began to scream again. The sound was horrible. It was the sound of complete and total terror. Vela stepped back, her feathers flattening against her skull. "I cannot," she said, her voice breaking. "I cannot bear to see it suffer more." Dr. Thiessen closed her eyes. She had worked in this field for over 200 years. She had saved countless lives, but she had never felt so helpless. The cub did not want to be saved. It wanted to hide. It wanted to disappear. And no amount of advanced technology could change that. The station's communication system crackled. A voice, rough and slightly distorted, came through. "Medical Bay, this is maintenance. I'm outside your door. One of your ventilation panels is reporting a fault. Permission to enter and repair." Dr. Morrow looked at Dr. Thiessen. She shrugged. "Let them in. We are not making progress anyway." The door slid open, and a human walked in. His name was Marcus Cole. He was not remarkable in any way. He was of average height, with brown skin, short black hair, and a thick beard that was starting to show streaks of gray. He wore the orange jumpsuit of the station's maintenance crew. His hands were large and rough from years of work. His eyes were tired but kind. Humans had only joined the Galactic Union a few decades ago. They were considered a young species, still learning the ways of the galaxy. They had no special abilities. Their technology was basic compared to the great empires. Their bodies were fragile, their lifespans short. Most species tolerated them, if you took them seriously. Marcus looked around the medical bay with mild curiosity. "Nice place," he said, his voice casual. "Which panel is it?" Dr. Thiessen pointed toward the far wall. "Over there. But please be quick. We are dealing with a sensitive situation." Marcus nodded and walked toward the wall. His boots made soft sounds on the floor. He passed the observation window without glancing at it, and then something happened that made every doctor in the room freeze. The cub stopped screaming. It was not gradual. It was instant. One moment the cub was pressed into the corner, its body shaking with fear. The next it was silent. Its 3 golden eyes were locked on Marcus as he walked past. Its ears, which had been flat against its skull, slowly began to rise. Dr. Thiessen stepped forward. Marcus paused. He looked at the window. He saw the cub staring at him. He frowned slightly, confused. "What's wrong with the little guy?" Dr. Moreau grabbed his arm. "Do not move," he whispered urgently. "Do not speak, just stay exactly where you are." The cub stood up. Its legs were weak and shaking, but it stood. It took 1 step toward the window, then another. It pressed its small paws against the glass and looked up at Marcus with an expression that none of them had seen before. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was hope. Dr. Thesson's heart began to race. She did not understand what was happening. She did not know why. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. This human was not leaving this room until she found out. Marcus stood very still. He looked at the small purple creature pressing its paws against the glass. He looked at the doctors who were staring at him like he had just performed a miracle. He looked back at the creature. His confusion deepened. "Okay," he said slowly. "Someone want to tell me what's going on." Dr. Thiessen moved quickly. Her silver fingers flew across her day. "That cub has been in complete terror for 3 days. It has rejected every single member of our staff. It has screamed at anyone who came near. And now it is calm. Because of you." Marcus scratched his beard. "I didn't do anything. I just walked past." Dr. Morrow was already scanning Marcus with a handheld device. The readings made his eyes go wide. "Impossible," he breathed. "Absolutely impossible." Nurse Vella hurried to his side. "What is it? What do you see?" Dr. Morrow turned the device so they could all see the screen. It showed a complex pattern of waves and colors. "This is a reading of his emotional field. Every sentient being produces one. It is normally chaotic, filled with dozens of competing signals. Anxiety, stress, alertness, suspicion. That is normal. That is what every species produces." He pointed at Marcus's reading. The pattern was different. It was smooth. It was warm. It flowed in gentle, steady waves like water in a calm river. "His field is pure," Dr. Morrow said, his voice filled with wonder. "There is no aggression, no threat, no predator signals. It is completely, entirely safe." Marcus raised his hands. "Hold on, I'm just a maintenance guy. I fix pipes and panels. I don't have any special abilities." Dr. Thiessen grabbed his arm. "You do not understand. The Valari cub can sense emotional fields. Their species evolved on a world filled with predators. Their young developed the ability to detect danger from birth. That cub has been reading every person who approached as a threat, not because of what they did, but because of what they felt." She pointed at the observation window. "But when it sensed you, it sensed something different, something it has never encountered before, something safe." The cub was still at the window. Its small tail was beginning to sway. Its eyes were bright and focused on Marcus with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "The cub wants you to enter," Dr. Morrow said. "It is asking for you." Marcus stepped back. No way. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about alien kids. What if I hurt it?" Dr. Thessen's voice was firm. "If you do not enter that room, the cub will die. Its body is failing. It needs food, water, and medical attention. But it will not accept any of it from us. You are its only chance." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. He looked at the cub. It was so small, so fragile. Its purple fur was thin and dirty. Its ribs were visible beneath its skin. It was dying, and it was looking at him like he was the only light in a universe of darkness. Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about his daughter back on Earth. She was grown now, with children of her own. But he remembered when she was small. He remembered how she used to climb into his lap during thunderstorms, pressing her face against his chest. He remembered how his heartbeat was enough to calm her fears. He opened his eyes. "Fine," he said. "Open the door." The containment room door slid open. Marcus stepped inside. The air was warm and smelled faintly of antiseptic. The cub watched him, frozen in place. Its 3 eyes tracked his every movement. Marcus moved slowly. He remembered what his grandmother used to say when he was a boy. "Animals know who's safe. You can't fake it. You just have to be it." He lowered himself to the floor, sitting cross-legged. He did not reach out. He did not move toward the cub. He simply sat there, his hands resting on his knees, and waited. The cub tilted its head. Its ears twitched. It took a careful step forward, then another, then another. Outside the window, the doctors held their breath. This was the closest anyone had gotten. If Marcus made a single wrong move, the progress would be lost. But Marcus did not make any move at all. He just sat there, breathing slowly, his expression calm and open. The tiredness in his eyes was gone. In its place was something gentle, something patient. The cub reached him. It stood just inches away, its small body trembling. It sniffed the air around him. Its eyes searched his face. And then, slowly, carefully, it climbed into his lap. Dr. Thiessen pressed her hand against the glass. Her eyes were wet. In 200 years of practice, she had never seen anything like this. The cub, which had been a ball of terror and pain, was now curling itself against Marcus's chest. Its small paws gripped his jumpsuit. Its head pressed against his heart. Marcus did not move. He barely breathed. He looked down at the tiny creature clinging to him and felt something deep inside his chest begin to break. "Hey there, little one," he whispered. "It's okay. You're safe now. I've got you." The cub made a sound. It was not a scream. It was not a cry. It was a soft, rumbling purr that vibrated through Marcus's chest. It was the sound of relief, the sound of trust, the sound of a child who had finally found something to hold on to. Dr. Morrow was the first to speak. "Remarkable," he breathed. "Absolutely remarkable. The cub's stress hormones are dropping rapidly. Its heart rate is stabilizing. It is actually relaxing. Nurse Vela wiped her eyes with one of her 6 arms. I have never seen anything so beautiful. Dr. Thiessen opened the door and stepped inside. She moved slowly, carefully, keeping her distance. She knelt down a few feet away from Marcus and held out a small container. Water, she said softly. It is infused with nutrients. If you can get the cub to drink, it may survive. Marcus took the container. He held it near the cub's mouth. The small creature sniffed it. It looked up at Marcus with questioning eyes. Go ahead, Marcus said gently. It's okay. Drink. The cub hesitated. Then, with one small paw still gripping Marcus's jumpsuit, it began to drink. It drank slowly at first, then faster. It drained the entire container in seconds. Dr. Thiessen let out a breath she had been holding for 3 days. It worked, she whispered. It actually worked. Marcus looked up at her. Now what? She smiled. It was the first time she had smiled in days. Now, we save its life. And you, Marcus Cole, are going to help us do it. Marcus looked down at the cub curled against his chest. It was already falling asleep, its breathing slow and steady. He could feel its tiny heartbeat against his own. He had come here to fix a ventilation panel. He was leaving with something far more complicated. And somehow, he was okay with that. News traveled fast on Station Cora 7 by the next morning. Everyone knew about the human who had calmed the untouchable cub. Whispers filled the corridors. Messages flew across communication networks. A maintenance worker had done what the best doctors in the sector could not. Marcus tried to return to his normal duties. He had panels to fix, pipes to check, systems to maintain. But every few hours, his communicator would buzz with a message from the medical bay. The cub was refusing to eat. The cub was crying again. The cub would not let anyone touch it. And every time, Marcus would put down his tools and walk back to that sterile white room, where a tiny purple creature was waiting for him. Dr. Thiessen observed each visit with growing fascination. She had begun recording everything: Marcus's movements, his tone of voice, the way he held the cub. She analyzed his emotional field readings multiple times per day. The data was consistent. His field remained calm, warm, and completely non-threatening no matter what was happening around him. On the 4th day, she finally cornered him in the corridor outside the medical bay. I need you to answer some questions, she said, blocking his path with her tall silver frame. Marcus sighed. He had been expecting this. Go ahead. Dr. Thiessen pulled out her data. How do you stay so calm? Your emotional readings never spike. You show no stress response even in high-pressure situations. This is not normal for any species we have encountered. Marcus shrugged. I don't know. I've always been this way. My mom used to call me her steady rock. When I was a kid, all the neighborhood cats and dogs would follow me home. Animals just liked being around me. Dr. Thiessen made a note. Have you ever received special training? Meditation? Mental conditioning? No, I worked in a factory for 20 years. Then I got divorced. My kids grew up, and I needed a change. We saw a posting for maintenance workers on a space station, and I thought, why not? The best decision I ever made. The doctor frowned. This did not fit her theories. Marcus was completely ordinary. No training, no enhancements, no special background. Yet somehow, he possessed an ability that the galaxy's most advanced medical professionals could not replicate. A message alert appeared on her data. She read it, and her expression shifted to something between surprise and concern. The Valari government has been informed of the cub situation, she said. A diplomatic envoy is arriving tomorrow. They want to see the cub and speak with you. Marcus's face went pale. Me? Why me? Because you are the only being the cub trusts. They want to understand why, and they want to thank you personally for saving its life. Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. I don't know anything about diplomacy. I fix things. That's all I do. Dr. Thiessen placed a hand on his shoulder. Her silver fingers were cool against his skin. You have already done more than you realize. Just be yourself. That seems to be enough. The next day, the station buzzed with activity. Valari ships were rare visitors to this sector. Their arrival was marked with formal protocols, honor guards, and enough security to make Marcus's head spin. He stood in the docking bay, wearing a clean jumpsuit that Nurse Vela had insisted he change into. The cub was in his arms, its purple fur now clean and shining after days of careful grooming. It clung to him with its small paws, its 3 eyes watching the approaching ship with wary curiosity. The ship landed with a soft hum. Its doors opened, and a procession of Valari emerged. They were larger than the cub. Of course, adult Valari stood nearly 6 feet tall, with sleek purple fur, forearms, and faces that showed remarkable intelligence. They moved with grace and purpose, their golden eyes scanning the crowd. At the front was a female Valari dressed in robes of deep blue and gold. Her fur was streaked with white, marking her age and status. She walked directly toward Marcus and stopped 3 feet away. For a long moment, she simply looked at him. Her eyes moved from his face to the cub in his arms. The cub looked back at her and made a soft chirping sound. The female Valaria's composure cracked. Tears welled in her golden eyes. She dropped to her knees, a gesture of profound humility in Valari culture, and pressed her forehead to the floor. I am Matriarch Vesha, she said, her voice thick with emotion. This cub is the daughter of my daughter. I thought I had lost her forever. Marcus stood frozen. He did not know what to do. He looked at Dr. Thiessen for help, but she simply nodded encouragingly. Ma'am, Marcus said carefully, please stand up. There's no need for that. Vesha rose slowly. Her eyes never left the cub. You saved her. The reports told us everything. 3 days. She refused all contact. 3 days. She was dying. And then you came. She reached out slowly, carefully. The cub watched her approach. Its ears flattened slightly. But it did not scream. It did not cry. It simply watched, measuring this new presence. Vesha touched the cub's head gently. The cub leaned into her touch, recognizing something familiar. A scent, perhaps. A sound. A memory buried deep beneath layers of trauma. She remembers you, Marcus said quietly. Somewhere inside, she knows who you are. Vesha looked at him with something like wonder. How do you know this? Marcus smiled. Because that's what family is. It leaves marks that can't be erased. No matter how much pain we go through, those marks stay. The cub reached out with one small paw and touched Vesha's face. The matriarch began to cry openly, her composure finally breaking. She pulled the cub close, cradling it against her chest, but even as she held her grandchild, the cub's other paw remained firmly gripped on Marcus's jumpsuit. It would not let go of him completely. It needed them both. Vesha looked at Marcus over the cub's head. What is your name? Human, Marcus Cole. She spoke the name like it was something precious. My people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You have given me back something I thought was gone forever. Ask anything of me, and if it is within my power, it shall be yours. Marcus looked at the cub. It was nestled between them, finally at peace. For the first time since the rescue, it looked like a normal child, tired, hungry, but safe. I don't want anything, Marcus said. I just wanted to help. Vesha studied him for a long moment. Her golden eyes searched his face, looking for deception, looking for hidden motives. She found nothing but sincerity. That, she said softly, is exactly why my granddaughter chose you. The weeks that followed changed everything. Word of what happened on Station Cora 7 spread beyond the Valari system. Scientists from across the Galactic Union began requesting data, interviews, and access to the recordings Dr. Thiessen had made. They wanted to understand how a simple human had done what their best technology could not. Dr. Morrow led the research. He gathered human volunteers from across the station, engineers, traders, pilots, cooks, and tested each one. The results shocked him. 80% of humans showed the same pattern Marcus did. Their emotional fields were naturally calmer, warmer, and less threatening than any other known species. It was not training. It was not culture. It was biology. The discovery made headlines across the galaxy. Marcus tried to ignore the attention. He went back to fixing panels and checking pipes. But he could not escape the looks people gave him now. Aliens who had once walked past him without a second glance now stopped to stare. Some whispered to each other. Others approached with questions, requests, or offers he did not understand. Matriarch Vesha stayed on the station with the cub, whom she called Tira. She refused to leave until Tira was strong enough to travel. But there was another reason she stayed. She wanted to observe Marcus. One evening, she found him in the station's observation deck, staring out at the stars. Tara was asleep in her quarters, finally able to rest without clinging to someone. May I join you? Vesha asked. Marcus nodded. The matriarch sat beside him, her forearms folded gracefully in her lap. Together, they watched the distant lights of passing ships. I have been reading about your species, Vesha said. Your history is violent. Your world has seen wars, famines, and cruelty beyond imagination. How is it that a species born from such chaos can produce individuals like you? Marcus thought about the question. He thought about his grandfather, who had fought in a terrible war and came home with nightmares that never stopped. He thought about his mother, who raised 4 children alone after his father left. He thought about all the people he had known who carried pain inside them but still found ways to be kind. I think that's exactly why, he said finally. We know what it's like to be hurt. We know what it's like to be afraid. So when we see someone else going through it, we understand. We don't want them to feel that way too. Vesha was silent for a long moment. Among my people, strength means protection. We guard our young fiercely. We fight to defend them. We show power to keep predators away. She turned to look at Marcus. But you did none of those things. You did not fight. You did not show power. You simply sat down and offered your presence. And somehow, that was enough. Marcus smiled slightly. Sometimes, that's all anyone needs. Someone to be there. Someone who makes them feel like they're not alone. Vesha considered this. Her culture had always valued action, doing something, changing something, controlling something. The idea that simply existing in the right way could be powerful was foreign to her. My people will want to study this, she said. They will want to understand how humans create this effect. They may even want to reproduce it somehow. Marcus frowned. You can't reproduce it. It's not something you do. It's something you are. That is what I told them. But they are scientists. They want formulas and methods. The door behind them opened. Dr. Thiessen walked in, her datapad clutched in her hands. Her expression was troubled. "I apologize for interrupting," she said, "but there is something you both need to see." She handed the datapad to Vesh. The matriarch's eyes scanned the screen, and her face grew dark. "What is it?" Marcus asked. Vesha spoke quietly. "The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. A proposal has been submitted regarding humans." Marcus felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "What kind of proposal?" Dr. Thiessen answered. "Some species want to classify humans as a protected resource. They argue that human emotional fields could be used for medical purposes across the galaxy, treating trauma, calming distressed individuals, stabilizing dangerous patients. They want to recruit humans for this purpose." Marcus stood up. His calm demeanor cracked for the first time since the cub had entered his life. "Recruit? You mean force people to work as living medicine?" "Not force," Vesha said carefully. "The proposal speaks of compensation and volunteer programs. But the language is concerning. It implies that humans would be expected to serve." Marcus ran a hand over his face. He had spent his entire life trying to be invisible, trying to do his job and mind his own business. Now, because he had helped one frightened child, his entire species was being discussed like a commodity. "What can I do?" he asked. Vesha stood. Her forearms unfolded, and she placed two of them on his shoulders. "You can speak." Marcus blinked. "What?" "The council has invited you to address them. You are the center of this story. Your testimony could shape how they see your species. If you tell them who you really are, not a resource, not a tool, but a person, it may change everything." Marcus looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, his daughter was living her life, unaware that her father had accidentally become a figure in galactic politics. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were going about their days, not knowing that aliens were debating their future. He thought about Terra curled against his chest. He thought about the trust in her golden eyes. He thought about how good it felt to know that simply being himself had saved a life. He turned back to Vesha and Dr. Thiessen. His expression was steady. His voice was firm. "When do we leave?" The Galactic Council chamber was the largest enclosed space Marcus had ever seen. It stretched upward for what seemed like miles, with hundreds of platforms rising in spiraling tiers toward a ceiling that glittered with artificial starlight. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of species filled those platforms, their forms ranging from towering giants to creatures so small they needed magnification screens to be seen. Marcus stood alone on the central speaking platform. Vesha and Dr. Thiessen watched from a nearby observation booth. They had wanted to accompany him, but council protocols were strict. Only the speaker could stand before the assembly. His legs felt weak. His mouth was dry. But somewhere in the back of his mind, he heard his grandmother's voice. "Steady, boy. Just be who you are." The council, arbiter, massive crystalline being that pulsed with soft blue light, spoke in a voice that resonated through every corner of the chamber. "The assembly recognizes Marcus Cole of Earth, representative of humanity. You may speak." Marcus cleared his throat. He looked out at the countless faces staring back at him. Some looked curious. Some looked skeptical. Some looked at him the way a customer might look at an item for sale. That last group made him angry. And strangely, that anger steadied him. "I'm not a scientist," he began. His voice was amplified through the chamber, filling every corner. "I'm not a politician. I fix broken things for a living. 3 weeks ago, I was replacing a ventilation panel when I accidentally helped save a child's life. That's it. That's the whole story." He paused. The chamber was utterly silent. "Since then, I've heard people talking about humans like we're a new medicine, like we're a tool someone invented, like our ability to comfort scared children is something that should be harvested and distributed." His voice hardened. "I came here to tell you that you're wrong." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Several delegates leaned forward in their seats. "You want to know why that cub trusted me? It wasn't because I have special powers. It wasn't because humans produce some magical chemical. It was because I sat down and waited. It was because I didn't rush, didn't push, didn't demand. I just let her come to me on her own terms." Marcus stepped to the edge of the platform. "Every single one of you could do that. Any species in this room could learn patience and kindness and gentleness. You don't need humans for that. You just need to slow down." He looked directly at the delegates who had proposed the classification. They were a species called the Vorntor, angular beings with sharp features and calculating eyes. "You want to use us as living comfort machines. You think because we happen to be naturally good at calming traumatized children, you can put us to work like biological equipment." His voice dropped low. "That's not going to happen." One of the Vorn stood. His voice was cold and precise. "You speak emotionally, human. The proposal is not about exploitation. It is about efficiency. Your species has a gift. Should it not be shared with those who need it?" Marcus shook his head. "A gift stops being a gift when someone forces you to give it. What happened with that cub wasn't me doing a job. It was me being a person. The second you turn that into a duty, an obligation, a requirement, it stops working." He thought about Tira's golden eyes. He thought about the way she had looked at him, not as a service provider, but as something safe. something real. That cub didn't trust me because I was assigned to help her. She trusted me because I chose to, because I cared. You can't manufacture that. You can't mandate it. The moment you try, you destroy the very thing you're trying to capture. Vesha's voice came through the chamber. She had stepped onto a secondary platform, breaking protocol but earning no rebuke. Her status as a Valari matriarch gave her special standing. I support this human's words, she said. I have watched him for weeks. His gift is not something he does. It is something he is. You cannot extract it like fuel. You cannot replicate it like technology. You can only witness it and be grateful when it touches your life. She turned to face the full assembly. The Valari will oppose any proposal that treats humanity as a resource. We propose instead an alternative. Establish exchange programs. Invite humans to serve voluntarily as emotional support specialists, with full rights, fair pay, and the freedom to refuse any assignment. Let them choose to share their gift. Do not steal it from them. The chamber erupted in discussion. Delegates argued, gestured, and debated across platforms. Marcus watched, feeling suddenly exhausted. He had said what he needed to say. Now, the decision was out of his hands. 3 hours later, the vote was held. The original proposal was rejected. Vesha's alternative passed by a narrow margin. Humanity would be invited to participate in galactic healing initiatives but on their own terms, with their rights protected. Marcus returned to Station Cora 7 that night. He was too tired to celebrate. He just wanted to sleep. But when he reached his quarters, someone was waiting outside his door. Terra stood in the corridor, her purple fur glowing under the station lights. Vesha was beside her, holding her small paw. She wanted to say goodbye, Vesha explained. We leave tomorrow. Marcus knelt down. Terra walked toward him slowly. Her 3 golden eyes were bright and clear. She was not afraid anymore. She reached out and touched his face with one small paw. Then she pressed her forehead against his, a gesture of profound affection in Valari culture. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. He had never expected any of this. He had never asked for it. But somehow, this tiny creature had changed his life forever. You take care of yourself, little one, he whispered. Terra made a soft purring sound. She understood. Vesha placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. You have given my family something precious. When you are ready, you will always have a home among the Valari. She pressed a small device into his hand. It was a communication linker, direct connection to her. If you ever need anything, she said, call. They left the next morning. Marcus watched from the observation deck as their ship accelerated toward distant stars. Terra's face was pressed against a window, watching him until she was too far away to see. He went back to work that afternoon. There were panels to fix, pipes to check, systems to maintain. The galaxy kept turning. Life kept moving forward. But sometimes, late at night, Marcus would sit on the observation deck and look out at the stars. He would think about a frightened cub who had trusted him when she trusted no one else. He would think about the softness of her fur against his chest and the sound of her contented purr. And he would smile, because sometimes, the most extraordinary things happen to the most ordinary people. Sometimes a simple act of kindness could echo across the stars. And sometimes, just sometimes, being human was more than enough.